You're absolutely right about that, and that's been a tremendous challenge to try to keep people, given the rate of pay, etc. The other thing is the amount of work that they do, just the volume itself.
It's not just 8 to 5.
No, it's very difficult to retain them when it's impinging on their personal life. So that is an additional challenge. And I'm glad you mentioned pipeline safety, because in the recently completed federal audit, the PHMSA, the Federal Pipeline Authority, came in and determined that in the Pipeline Safety Bureau, the commission is 3 to 4 employees short of where it should be. And you're right to say that these are highly technical people, where training by the federal government for our inspectors takes on the order of 2 to 3 years to complete. So we train them, and then they often leave for a better job. And you're right. It's a challenge that unless things change with SPO and the just the personnel system itself, it's going to be difficult.
Maybe the next administration will bring good change.
Maybe so.
And I know we're having really tough times with our budget, and I've always wished that we could maintain our own, because we collect fines and fees, and we have our own budget, which is probably a lot more than it would be having to go and request a budget at the state capitol. And so it's some of that money that we send over there that we have to go back and ask for in return.
Yes.
And otherwise we'd sustain ourselves, and we'd be able to maybe recruit some good people and pay them.
Yes.
So
that is an additional challenge. And as you know, Commissioner, we've been under a 5% reduction in our budget since July 1st. That has kind of hamstringed us in the sense that we had to prioritize our travel, for instance.
Travel and training.
Yes, it's been impactful on travel and training. We try to do most of our investigations by phone and email, but there are inspections that we have to conduct on site.
What kind of inspections? Tell the folks, they can call our office or your office, for, we usually get a lot of tips, and that whether they're from towing companies or other companies are saying, well, they're doing this, this, and this.
That's right.
Tell the public what exactly the kind of calls you get.
Yeah, our investigations bureau is staffed by 5 investigators and / inspectors that will often get complaints, like you say, from other wrecker companies, or saying somebody's operating illegally, or by the consumer or the consuming public at large complaining about their bill, that they believe they were overcharged, or that that their car was damaged during the towing process, for instance. And so we take each and every complaint seriously. We require the complaint to be in writing so that we're not accused of selective enforcement, of going after one wrecker over another. So that is a requirement. But once we get that written complaint, we are obligated to investigate each and every one.
Regardless if it's true or false?
Correct. And we don't know that until we go out and actually to check. So we'll often get, for instance, a copy of the invoice that was billed to the customer, and we'll determine that the correct charges were made on that invoice, that the mileage was correct, that the charge for the mileage was correct, that they didn't charge for something that for a service, for instance, that wasn't performed, like maybe they charged for recovery when there was no recovery necessary. Recovery is when you hook up something, like say to a winch, and pull it out of a ditch and then put it on the wrecker. So we make sure that those things were done, and then we get back to the we interview the wrecker and the complainant just to get their sides of the story. But often we get a resolution by simply informing the record, look, we didn't, this charge doesn't look proper, and based on what we tell them, they usually end up refunding the charge that we thought was improper, and they ultimately agree, or they agree that it's not worth fighting over. The people that or the records that do not take us seriously in that regard, we send to the legal division for further administrative action.
That eventually would end up before the commission.
Correct, and those go to the commission, and you've heard quite a few of those, and so you know exactly what that process is like. But we see our job as 80% education, trying to get the records to know that we're watching and that you should be charging the correct amount, and instructing them on what is the correct amount and how to use the tariff, and if they have questions to ask us. And 20% is enforcement. For the records that don't want to play by the rules, then we have to take further action in the form of enforcement. You asked about other or additional inspections that we do. We're obligated by the Ambulance Standards Act, state statute, to inspect all ambulance services, certificated ambulance services, in the state of New Mexico at least once annually. So today, as a matter of fact, we have our inspector, Jimmy V. Hill, on the road conducting the last 3 inspections of the year. That will complete in total all of the inspections we're required to do for this year. I think he's in the Tucumcari area today. So
I was going to ask you, and it crossed my mind, you said we were short 3 to 4 people in pipeline.
Yes.
Some of those jobs, aren't they federally funded? Couldn't we
Yes.
have the feds pick up the tab on those 3 employees?
The federal government will fund up to 80% of the budget for those inspectors. The problem has been in getting the legislature to agree to increase the number of FTEs, the full-time equivalent employee numbers that we're allowed to carry, and the 20% that the state is obligated to pay. There's an initial investment in that because we'd have to buy them the proper clothing, get them a car for travel because they need a car to go out to those inspections. Yes, we would be reimbursed for 80% of that, but that comes after the fact, and it's getting help at the legislature to do that. That's been the problem.
That's too bad that we do suffer indeed, the quality and the performance if we don't have the manpower. And
Yes.
I can tell you what I've observed in the last 4 years, having just one assistant compared to what I had before in the past, 36 helpers, in a county, but compared to a state, and we man that office all day long, every day, and so it's a busy place for 2 people, and it's sometimes overwhelming.
It's daunting.
So you have to devote your focus and your full time there, and present and every day, because our office gets call after call after call, and we just stay on them, and it does get difficult. So I don't know, I guess in the past they had additional support staff for each commissioner, and then somehow
Yes.
it got cut down to 1. But I think I expressed when we presented the budget earlier, not this recent one, but how important it would be to have more support staff for the commission. I
agree. Both technical support staff would be most welcome, I think, for the commission, and just general help to handle constituent services. And by the way, I want to compliment you, Commissioner, on the level of constituent services that you do, not only for the people in your district, but for people outside your district. I think that it's an excellent service that you provide. So
Well,
I wanted to
thank
say
you.
that.
I appreciate it, and I thank you for going with me out to the yards to say, hey, this is the problem, and this is what, I get complaints about. So you actually go out there with me to observe it yourself, so you won't see that I'm, just saying, okay, this is, something we're conjuring up here. It's not. It's reality. And we got a call from somebody from Tijeras, and I'm happy to help them in Tijeras. It's not my district, but I'm not going to tell them it's not my district. I'm going to say, okay, well, we're still going to have you take care of them. Or, for instance, the Carol Miller who thought we could help her with the transit situation. But we go beyond that. Call and
Absolutely.
we refer them if we can't help them, and we deal with them one-on-one. That's why I wish we had more help, because I could certainly, I know RC juggles and I juggle, and we could have that additional helper, to, answer phones and schedule meetings.
And even on the technical side, really the only person that's dedicated to the commission itself is, besides the attorneys, is Mark Martinez.
Yes.
And wouldn't it be nice if you had an accountant?
Yes.
And if you had
another economist.
Yeah, an engineer and another economist. I think those things would be most helpful. And a lot of commissions in the United States have those technical people in their staff.
Each person assigned to that, because you really need each person working, the legwork, and then working together with them to accomplish the agenda, and really, have the knowledge, because you can, read all the memos, you can read all the case histories and the orders and everything, but sometimes there's past history to that particular case that would be helpful to have somebody also, bringing that into the picture. And that we've really engaged in some of the concerns with the water companies, and I really take it passionately. I take it very serious. And the situation with AV Water has gotten out of control, and it's a travesty to see that, that somebody could be so neglectful. And, so it's a full-time job. I love it, and I have no regrets, and I feel like I'm pretty effective, and I can't be effective without staff, without my assistant, without people like you, with the attorneys, with the Marks of the world, and everybody contributes. And so I just think it's a great place. I know we've gotten several black eyes, but I think it's completely turned around, and we have a good quality of staff, and we just lost Bruno, and that's another sad day, but he's got to spend time with his grandchildren. And he's another technical expert that's just, people like that with that expertise don't have, we don't find that just off the street.
No, they're almost irreplaceable. I've lived by the axiom that anybody can be replaced. However, even replacing somebody with Bruno's talent takes time. And how do you get those years of experience, and unless you can hire and retain people of that quality? So it's very difficult. I wanted to say one thing. I wanted to compliment my staff in the transportation division. I am very fortunate to have my staff. I think they do a wonderful job in applications and investigations, and in our newly formed Railroad Bureau, and I wouldn't trade any of them. So I just wanted to say that to them, because they deserve that.
Well, it takes a good leader at the top.
Well,
and you treat people with, respect and dignity, and I appreciate that too, because
thank you, Commissioner.
It comes from the top, right?
Well, you're at the top, so yes, it does come from the top.
Well, I'm just an average, ordinary person, just trying to, get my feet wet and, dig into the work and help people. And I'm utilizing the position to my advantage to help people, and it seems to be working.
I definitely think it is, and yes, I would agree.
So you're stuck with me another 4 years, and I'm pretty grateful. And speaking of that, I think it's almost time to wrap up. But again, I want to thank you for being here, and keep doing the good job, and we'll work with all our employees to just continue to help the public and serve the public, and make things better for them and for us, and
absolutely.
And the utility too. We strike a balance, you know. And so you know the tough cases ahead of us around the corner right before Christmas.
Right.
But again, thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we'll have a part 2 with Avelino Gutierrez also, because I don't think we covered everything we wanted to, and that half hour went by so fast.
Sure
so
did.
Thank you again.
Right.
If you'd like to appear on our program, please call us at 827-4533. Thank you again for watching.
Thank you.